There is an established mythology in professional sports regarding the final moments of a close game. When the shot clock is turned off and the outcome hangs by a single possession, the camera invariably pans to the sideline. We watch the head coach aggressively drawing lines on a whiteboard, surrounded by exhausted players hanging on to every word. When the team executes the play and the ball goes through the net, the immediate reaction from the mainstream media is to credit the coaching staff for a tactical masterstroke. The narrative becomes about the brilliant design, the flawless execution, and the overarching genius of the person holding the marker. But what happens when the players on the floor decide to break ranks? What happens when a member of the locker room utilizes social media to completely shatter the illusion of coaching competence? Today, we are breaking down a monumental revelation that exposes the absolute dysfunction within the Indiana Fever organization. We are looking at how a single Instagram post from Sophie Cunningham humiliated head coach Stephanie White, confirming what analytical basketball minds suspected all along. The historic game-winning logo 3 by Caitlin Clark was never supposed to happen. The final play was designed for Kelsey Mitchell. To comprehend the magnitude of this revelation, we must first analyze the psychology of the locker room. In any professional sports environment, there is a strict hierarchy, and there is an unspoken rule of Omera regarding the inner workings of the huddle. You do not expose the playbook, and you certainly do not expose the intentions of the head coach to the public. However, the Indiana Fever currently operate in a state of sustained chaos. The tension regarding offensive hierarchy and the clear mismanagement of the franchise cornerstone has reached a boiling point. Sophie Cunningham, a player known for her outspoken nature and refusal to conform to media-trained answers, has effectively become the whistleblower for this entire operation. The initial suspicion regarding the final play design did not originate from rumors. It originated from studying the physical tape of the game. When you watch the final possession unfold, the spatial movement of the players immediately raises red flags. The primary action, the screen set, and the timing of the inbound pass all pointed toward an isolation set for the veteran guard. Listen to this breakdown, analyzing the exact sequence of events, tracking the movements that first sparked the debate about who the true target of the play was.
Cunningham, because Sophie Cunningham wasted no time today poking fun at the entire Fever organization. Oh yes, because yesterday when I was on live, and shout out to you guys that tuned into that live, I say, man, is it me? But does it look like this play was designed for Kelsey Mitchell? Because we see Kelsey Mitchell go to the right, get hammed up, go to the left. Sophie, and nah, I ain't even finna wait for you to get open. Here, Caitlin. And that's exactly what she did. And I'm telling you right now, Sophie Cunningham saved today. Oh, and
the visual evidence was strong, but visual evidence in basketball is often subject to interpretation. A coaching staff can easily defend a broken play by claiming the defense disrupted the primary action, forcing the players into secondary reads. They can maintain the facade that they retained total control over the offensive execution. That facade remained intact for exactly 24 hours, until Sophie Cunningham decided to take to Instagram and completely dismantle IT and the modern era of sports. Social media is not just a tool for brand building, it is a mechanism for controlling the narrative. Athletes understand exactly what they are communicating when they share specific images and text. Cunningham did not just post a generic celebration of a victory. She posted a highly curated, specific sequence of images that served as a direct indictment of the coaching staff's original game plan. Watch the documentation of this social media activity, observing the exact phrasing and the subsequent interactions from her teammates that validated the entire theory.
Today, on Sophie Cunningham Instagram, she took time to reflect. And when I tell you reflect, she reflected on last night's game. Now, Sophie caption is, "Your life seems so fun. Thanks, my family used to have a conversation of how to deal with me." Now, this is Sophie Cunningham. Caitlin is soonly definitely posted this. Caitlin said, "Love you, Soph. Twin. Crazy that you cropped me out." But watch this.
The initial photos set the tone of rebellion, but it was the final image in her sequence that delivered the fatal blow to Stephanie White's credibility. Cunningham shared a meme, a piece of digital art created by a fan, that explicitly spelled out the reality of a huddle. This was not a subtle hint or a cryptic message. This was a direct, undeniable confirmation that the players on the floor looked at the play drawn up by the coaching staff, recognized its inherent flaws in real time, and decided to completely abandon it in favor of finding their best shooter. Listen to the exact wording of the post that Cunningham chose to broadcast to the entire basketball world.
Keep watching. Didn't follow the plan. Worth it. We may have improvised. Oops. You followed the right plan. Won anyway, 78-76. Sophie Cunningham has confirmed that this play right here was not designed for Caitlin. So all of us...
We may have improvised. Oops. That single word, oops, is the ultimate sign of disrespect toward a coaching philosophy that has repeatedly failed to maximize the talent on the roster. It is a public declaration that the players trust their own instincts far more than they trust the directives coming from the sideline. When we return to the tape armed with this confirmation, the mechanics of the final play transform from a standard basketball highlight into a psychological thriller. You can literally see the exact moment the script is thrown out the window. You can see the expectation of the coaching staff clashing with the reality of the player's execution. Watch the reaction of Kelsey Mitchell at the exact moment the ball is released. Her body language is the final, irrefutable piece of evidence in this entire investigation.
Blow it all the way up. Look, it is 0.4 seconds left. Let's play it. So, if you guys can see here, there's Kelsey Mitchell. She's doubled. Now, Kelsey turned around, and I knew I wasn't tripping because Kelsey turned around so fast, like, damn, I was supposed to get the ball. Open.
Mitchell turns around rapidly, hands prepared to receive the basketball, entirely expecting to be the focal point of the final action. She was the intended target of Stephanie White's whiteboard design. The fact that the coaching staff, in a one-point game with the season essentially hanging in the balance, chose to design an isolation play for a heavily guarded veteran instead of utilizing the unprecedented shooting gravity of their generational point guard is a staggering indictment of their tactical awareness. Sophie Cunningham looking off the primary action to find Caitlin Clark standing on the logo was not just a good basketball decision, it was an act of organizational defiance. It was a player recognizing that the established hierarchy was leading them directly toward a loss and choosing to bypass the hierarchy to secure a win. This internal conflict, this constant friction between a coach attempting to enforce a rigid, traditional system and a player whose mere presence demands structural evolution, places an unimaginable burden on the athlete. Caitlin Clark is not just attempting to navigate the physical demands of professional basketball. She is attempting to carry a franchise that actively resists the changes necessary to support her. To fully understand the weight of this responsibility, we have to look to the legends of the game who have walked this exact path. Cynthia Cooper is not merely a former player. She is a foundational pillar of the WNBA. She understands the crushing pressure of carrying a franchise on her shoulders, the isolation of being the primary target for every opposing defense, and the frustration of dealing with an environment that does not fully grasp how to optimize her abilities. During a recent interview, Cooper provided a profoundly empathetic analysis of the current situation in Indiana. She stripped away the media noise and addressed the raw human element of being a transcendent talent trapped in a dysfunctional system.
So I know there's a lot of pressure on Caitlin, and I know she's not always reacting in the way she would want to. But, I give her grace. Honestly, I give her grace because I've been in that situation. I've been in a situation where everything is on your shoulders and you don't feel like you're getting a call or and I've reacted different ways. But the difference is I didn't have all the cameras on me. I didn't have everybody watching my every move. And so, it's a little,
Cooper speaks about giving grace. She acknowledges the emotional reactions, the frustration, and the sheer exhaustion of having every single movement analyzed by an unrelenting media apparatus. When a player is forced to battle the opposing defense, the physical abuse ignored by the officials, and the tactical incompetence of their own coaching staff, emotional outbursts are not a sign of immaturity. They are a sign of a fiercely competitive spirit reaching its absolute breaking point. The structural burden placed on a franchise player is immense. They are expected to be the offensive engine, the primary distributor, the face of the marketing campaigns, and the emotional leader of a locker room. But what happens when the infrastructure surrounding that player is fundamentally broken? What happens when the head coach draws up a game-winning play that actively excludes the most dangerous weapon on the floor? The player is forced to rely on the rebellion of their teammates. The comparison of athletes across different eras and different sports is often a flawed exercise, relying heavily on hyperbole rather than analytical substance. However, when assessing the impact of Caitlin Clark, traditional basketball comparisons fall remarkably short. You cannot compare her solely to other guards in the history of the WNBA because no other guard has initiated this specific type of economic and cultural paradigm shift. To find an accurate historical parallel, you have to look outside the boundaries of the basketball court entirely. Listen to this historical framing, evaluating the sheer magnitude of what she represents to the sport as a whole.
Better, it'll get easier, and her game will rise to the top because that's what cream does. It rises to the top, and she's going to get over this tough moment right now.
Shout out to In Case You Missed It podcast. Now, when I was on live set last night, somebody said Caitlin Clark isn't Michael Jordan. She isn't Larry Bird. She isn't Tiger Woods. But the right analogy and comparison of player is that Caitlin Clark is none other than baseball legend Babe Ruth. And I really got to thinking, and I say, damn, she brought the world
The comparison to Babe Ruth is not about statistical equivalence. It is about recognizing a figure who single-handedly altered the trajectory, popularity, and financial structure of an entire athletic institution. Ruth changed the geometry of baseball by normalizing the home run. Clark is changing the geometry of basketball by normalizing the 30-foot jump shot. But Babe Ruth did not have to actively fight against his own manager to be allowed to swing the bat. He was not used as a decoy in the bottom of the ninth inning to appease a veteran player. The Indiana Fever possessed the most significant catalyst in the history of women's sports, and their head coach is continually attempting to force her into a secondary role. The revelation provided by Sophie Cunningham is the smoking gun that validates every criticism leveled against Stephanie White this season. It removes the ambiguity. When the game was on the line, the coaching staff lacked the vision, the courage, or perhaps the willingness to put the ball in the hands of their most capable player. They designed a play to force the ball to Kelsey Mitchell, and the players on the floor had to actively disregard their instructions to salvage the victory. This dynamic is entirely unsustainable. A professional basketball team cannot function as a democracy where the players routinely vote to ignore the coaching staff during timeouts. Eventually, the structural foundation will collapse entirely. The Indiana Fever front office has a definitive choice to make. They can continue to employ a coaching staff that is fundamentally disconnected from the reality of their roster, relying on the improvisational brilliance of the players to cover up tactical failures. Or they can recognize the profound message being sent by their own locker room, remove the impediment on the sideline, and build an offensive system that actually reflects the generational talent they drafted. The tape does not lie. And thanks to the unfiltered transparency of players like Sophie Cunningham, the internal dynamics of the huddle no longer lie either. The illusion of the coaching masterclass has been completely shattered. The game-winning Logo 3 will be replayed in highlight packages for the next decade. But the true legacy of that shot is the undeniable proof that Caitlin Clark succeeds not because of the Indiana Fever system, but in spite of it. If you appreciate deep, methodical analysis of the mechanics and psychology of professional basketball, ensure you hit the subscribe button. We do not accept the mainstream narratives without pulling the tape and verifying the facts. Leave your thoughts in the comments section. Does the revelation that the final play was designed for Kelsey Mitchell seal the fate of Stephanie White? And how much longer can this roster function under this level of internal division? I will see you in the next breakdown.